Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Rants, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast by novice writers for novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. For today's rant, I'm going to be talking about Payoff. That oh so wonderful topic that so many people love to bring up, but really not as many authors are really able to pull off. And I'm going to be using RWBY as my subject to address this concept. Now then, this video will contain a lot of spoilers, so beware. I'm giving my spoiler warning now. But honestly, if you haven't yet watched RWBY, then I don't know what to say. It's a great show, despite all of its flaws. In any case, let me get this out of the way right now. There have been a lot of people who have recently been bringing up, as I said, the flaws within the show RWBY, especially after the most recent season with its pacing issues and some of its character arcs. It's understandable why a lot of fans aren't feeling very generous towards this series right now, and why newcomers are also feeling a little bit robbed out of what could be a really great experience. So let me just give my quick thoughts on the matter. To me, I feel that RWBY is a show that is growing up. If there's any way of putting it, I'd say it's right now in its adolescence. When it first came out, yes, it was choppy, might not have been edited with the best graphics or anything, but, I mean, let's face it, Monty with almost no one, put together a show, and did it really well with all things considered. And he already had developed such a fantastic world. He gave us really lovable characters, and even if they came across as a little bit clunky, the fight scenes at the beginning were either really hilarious or really awesome to watch. And it was just something new. It was like, wow, where did this come from? Well, this is really neat to watch. I wonder where this is going. Once again, the pacing was a bit of an issue, but you were just curious. Everyone was just curious to see where it would go. And by the time we got to season 3, it was just mind-blowing what kind of world was being presented to us. These characters, people were at the edge of their seat wondering what the big reveal, what the big villain plot was, and all this stuff. It was getting really, really fun. Unfortunately, Monty passed away. And it's wonderful to know that Rooster Teeth, the production company that made all of this possible, still kept the show going, and that there were enough people that Monty had shared his vision with that they knew, and they still know, where the story is supposed to go. And so they took it over, and thankfully we still have the show on the air. However, because Monty is no longer with us, the show did change. And what's more is it began changing at a time when the entire tone and focus of the show began to shift. So, puberty on steroids for RWBY, and not in the best of ways. So it would make sense that season 4 would trip a bit on its feet, but that's what makes season 5 just also a little bit difficult, because you would hope that they would have knocked out all of the bugs and followed up season 4 with something really great in season 5. But as people know, puberty tends to suck, and it sometimes goes on a whole lot longer than we would like. And so I feel like you just have to be patient right now. I know it's a terrible thing to say to some people, but I have great faith that RWBY will develop into the story and the series that Monty and his friends started out with, and that we will get a great resolution. This is my hope in Payoff. And before I really dive into the concept Payoff, I do want to give my own personal take still on RWBY. It's incredible to know that the show has evoked a lot of personal reactions among the fans. A lot of people tend to identify really strongly with the main cast of characters, with Ruby, Yang, Blake, Weiss, and also their friends. And I think that's touching. And it really says a lot once again about what this show offered, especially at the beginning. And so for myself, though I can definitely see all of the different flaws that plague the series right now, I have to say that it's been something special to me, especially because I look at the character Yang, and her arc of depression in season 4 reminds me a lot of my own struggles with depression, and how it's a long, bumpy road getting yourself out of those funks, but that it is possible, and when you are able to finally rebound back, you're ready to go again. Yang's story touches my heart, and she, by that fact, and also because some of her wit reminds me of what I'm like when I'm hanging out with my friends, she's the character I identify with the most, and so I absolutely love watching episodes that she's in. And this is something that goes really for all kinds of fans who really enjoy this series. So, though I am going to rip into the show a little bit, I do really like it. And I think that's a testament of a good fan as well. Someone who can enjoy something, but also isn't blinded by their enjoyment as to say, oh yeah, this series is absolutely perfect. No, RWBY isn't perfect. And this is where I'm going to show definitely its imperfections. So Payoff. Payoff is what we refer to in writing as that moment within a story, or also usually it's a series of moments where things are resolved. And you as the reader, when you're reading through the drama, through the action, through the mystery, it's where you get your resolve. It's where you get your resolution. It's where a character gets together with their loved one, or it doesn't work out. It's where the villain either triumphs or is defeated. It is the moment where the killer is revealed or the killer escapes. And those moments are important because it brings a close to the story. It doesn't always have to end happily. There are lots of endings that are kind of sad and tragic. But because we get a resolution to that part of the story, and if it's written well, we will still enjoy it. We might be crying, we might be angry, we might throw the book at a friend, and just be like, darn you! Curses! And then we'll pick it up again and say, like, okay, I need to read, keep reading. Oh, it's so good! That is what Payoff is like. If it's a tragic payoff, if it's a good payoff, we probably start bawling into the book, like, oh, it's just so beautiful. Oh, dang it, I gotta return this to the library later. Oh, I'm gonna have to pay for damages. So, in any case, Payoff, as I said, is the resolution to a story. And Payoff really becomes a serious matter the higher the stakes are, which usually comes about if you write a much larger story, or a story with intense character development, or a story with lots of characters. Really, the higher the stakes, the more your readers want a really good payoff. They want to have a good explanation as to why things happen the way that they do. They want to feel as though the matter has been resolved. And whether it's a happy resolution or a sad resolution, so long as it's one that is complete and gives us the answers that we were looking for, follows up through with the promises that you as the writer have made, then the payoff is good. A great way of thinking about payoff is in terms of a transaction, and it's the most important kind of transaction. Because when it comes to stories, the thing that we invest the most of is the most precious kind of currency that we have, which is time. The reader or the viewer for a show gives up time for the story. And if they buy the series or the book, they are spending money, which represents the time that they spent working. If they go to Comic-Cons or if they buy more merchandise, once again, this represents a lot of time. And so not characters, but well, sometimes the people who go to Comic-Con really are characters, but it's another matter entirely. People put a lot of time into things that they love, and as a result, they expect that it will all come to a good resolution. and that the payoff will be immense, that it will match or exceed the time that they have put into this story. And when the payoff isn't good, when the payoff is lacking, it's like Wall Street crashing. Everyone goes berserk, and things just become terrible for the next few months, if not for the next few years. Oh, there are definitely some stories that have done that to people. In any case, RWBY is an example of both great payoff, terrible payoff, and kind of meh payoff. Examples of really good payoff are these. Starting off with Yang, as I said, I identify with Yang's arc. This is good payoff. Now then, because there's still lots of the show left, it could pitter on out. But where we are right now, season 5, it is good. We've seen Yang defeated, maimed, and just she's lost her purpose, she's lost her way, she's lost her personality. But over the course of seasons 4 and 5, she builds it back up, she takes charge, she comes back fighting, she seeks out her mother, she's able to help rescue Weiss, and meets up with RWBY and the gang, and helps win the day at the end of season 5. And seeing her just rebound after such a terrible loss at the end of season 3 when the academy fell, that is really great payoff for a character arc. Another great moment of payoff is actually in season 4 with Ren and Nora, who have the chance to face down the Grimm that destroyed Ren's hometown. And not only is that a moment of resolution for both of them in terms of fighting against demons that have plagued their past, but it's also the moment where we get to see them pretty much get together as a couple. And it's good payoff. And really one of the best moments of payoff, and this is a payoff that's really sad, but it's just so beautifully done, is when John and Pyrrha finally share their kiss. After 3 seasons of will they, won't they, of little flirting in the background and ships intensifying, we get the moment where we see Pyrrha get to share her feelings for John in that wonderful kiss, and we just feel so heartbroken when she shoves John into the locker, sends him flying away, and he is now totally powerless and helpless to save her. And it continues on for the next 2 seasons as well. It's just, we see how much this relationship meant to both of them. And it's beautiful. It's young love, but it's the kind of young love that you just truly root for at the end of the day. And everything that we've seen so far has been great payoff from what the first 3 seasons built up. And so that's good payoff within the show RWBY. Now, the moments of bad payoff are instances such as really most of season 5 with the trip to see Leo, the cowardly lion. This is the moment for the team, for RWBY and her gang, to find some real answers, to find a relic, to stand up to the main villains. A lot is thrown at us this season with world building and everything, so you're expecting something really big, and then the final battle is totally lackluster, except for the part where Raven just totally dominates. Other than that, it's just totally weak. And it's just, words cannot adequately describe how bland the last few episodes were. And also the fact that we just got basically shot in the kneecaps a couple of times of like, oh, will Weiss die? Or what is Jean's semblance? And we were given these pointless cliffhangers to explain something that wasn't really actually all that important at the end of the day. It was, huzzah, here's a reveal, now we're sweeping under the rug. Pacing destroyed any of the good payoff that there could have been. Season 5 is just a mess. Season 5 did not deliver the kind of payoff that we needed, except for maybe in a character such as Raven. But once again, because this is an ongoing series, it's hard to judge some of the moments of payoff. Another great instance of just terrible payoff, because it really is just nothing more than a Deus Ex Machina, is the Silver Eyes. RWBY's Silver Eyes. What on earth are they? And what do they even do? We really don't know, and we were told they were supposed to get the answers, and we didn't. When you lie to your audience and say, I'm going to give you answers, but then you don't, that's like basically stripping them of all their time and then saying, look at that, I've left you destitute. No one wants to hear that, and people get angry when that happens to them. And so that's just so disappointing. An instance of kind of a meh payoff within RWBY has been Blake's own personal arc. It's been fantastic to see her face down her inner demons, especially the demons of her past revolving around Adam, the White Fang, her family, and that was a lot of fun to see her come to terms with all of that. It took a long time, which might have annoyed quite a few people, but it was good to see her finally find her resolve once again, take the fight to the enemy, conquer the White Fang, and even save Ilya from herself. And that was just wonderful. What kind of took away from that was that just all of a sudden, everyone that's decided now to join up with the reformed White Fang just appears randomly at the very last battle and helps save the day without really doing anything. And that took away from the payoff for Blake, because then it took Blake from being the hero of her own story to being merely a tool for getting an army to the good guys. And that's not great. That's not a great way of resolving her story. But it's fulfilling to see the transformation that she has gone through as a character. So it's kind of a win-lose situation. It's messy. So that's why I say it's kind of like a meh payoff. You like it, but then there's things that rub you the wrong way. So these are matters that RWBY has to deal with, that the show RWBY has to deal with, is that, as I said earlier, pacing has been a huge problem for it. And they need to not lie to the audience. They need to find good ways of communicating brilliant reveals, such as Jean's semblance, which was swept under the rug, or matters such as Raven being one of the maidens, which was phenomenal to see, and that fight scene was really great. But everything leading up to it just felt so meh that it just didn't have the glorious seat in the pantheon of great moments of RWBY that it should have had. And that is what can happen sometimes when you just do not pull off the payoff process correctly. So how can you do it? I've ranted about it. Now, how can you do it? My best advice as a novice writer is this. Keep track of all of the promises that you make throughout your story about like reveals, twists, what are the loose ends, what are the subplots. Definitely make sure that you take care of your subplots. It's kind of annoying to have a subplot just dangling on out there to ruin what could have been a perfect ending. And definitely make sure that your main plot is moving along at the pace that it should. And that's the thing, you just have to keep track. It is a juggling act. Welcome to the circus of writing, folks. But if you can pull it off, remembering all the things that you're supposed to do, where these characters are meant to go, where the story's meant to go, where all the subplots are meant to go, and you wrap them up when they need to be. They don't always have to be wrapped up at the end. They can be wrapped up even in the middle sometimes, or in an epilogue, or maybe in the next story, wherever. So long as you make sure that everything is progressing the way it's supposed to and does receive a proper ending when it should be brought to an end, then you will give your readers the payoff that they've been wanting. And definitely by giving people small moments of payoff throughout the story keeps readers invested, and it assures them that there will be a strong ending. And that's one thing that I really like out of the bigger epic fantasies. For instance, where you get to see resolution come to the political maneuverings that are going around, or small subplots, what a bad experience that a character is going through, or a relationship, something like that. When these smaller matters are resolved right before the climax, it lets you know, like, okay then, things are getting good now. I can just really focus on the big thing that happens at the end. So these are just some things to keep in mind. As I said, RWBY does have some instances of really good payoff. It should not be discounted for that. And so yeah, those are my thoughts on Payoff. I hope that that's a little bit enlightening to you, and I would love to hear your thoughts about the show RWBY if you have seen it. And if you haven't seen it, please do go give it a view. Keep yourself updated on it before the next season comes on out. Yes, seasons 4 and 5 are, as I said, kind of like going through puberty, but it is a fun show. And I have high hopes that the crew and the cast have learned from their experiences over the past couple seasons so that they can deliver to us a strong narrative in season 6, because I would love to just see this show just get better and better and deliver the strong ending that Monty had in his mind from the beginning. So those are my thoughts about it. Oh, and one quick thing. A lot of people give the show a lot of flack for its fight scenes. And I love writing action sequences. I probably have written a total of maybe a third of all of my writing are action sequences to some degree or another. And there's a lot that I can say as a novice writer about fights. So if you guys want to hear from me at some point, kind of like a mini series on this channel about a novice writer writing fight scenes, comment down below. Let me know that that's something that you would like, because if that's something that you want to hear from me, then I will definitely put that into the works. As I said, there's a lot that I've written and there's a lot I can say about it. There's a lot I want to tell you guys about it. But I will only share it with you if that's something that you really want to hear. So please comment down below if that's what you want. And with that being the end of this little rant, go check us out on Podbean. That's where our podcast is at. There's a lot of really great episodes on there about us talking about our experiences with writing, more tips, also some really hilarious epic readings of bad fan fictions. You can also check out our artwork on Tumblr, or you can have a look at some of our inspirational material via our Pinterest. The links for both of those sites are in the description box. And go to our Reddit page and talk with us about the matters of Payoff. Also this month we're talking a lot about video game stories, so go check that out. Let us know about your favorite video games and so forth on our Reddit. And finally, send us links to those terrible fan fictions that you know via our Twitter at Camille's Harem. So until then, or until the next video, tschüss!